You're listening to the Plane Talking UK podcast, the UK-based podcast written by a passenger for anyone. And here are your hosts, Carla Stebbings, Matt Smith and Neville Bounds.
Well, hello and welcome to episode number 251 of the Plane Talking UK podcast. I'm Carl Stebbings, and joining me in the PTUK studios, he's going mad with the touchscreen, it's Matt Smith.
Hello everyone. Good evening. Yes. Was
that a mad frantic dash?
It's also my home, I should stress. This is also my home, but there we are. Yes, hello, welcome. Yes, it's 251. How did that happen? I know. I don't understand.
Swiftly heading towards 300 shows.
Oh, shh.
That's crazy, isn't it? So, what's been happening in the world of Matt this week?
Ooh. I don't know, really. Just been going to work, really. Yeah. Been driving around.
Was that you this morning when I was on the way to work at 7:23 a.m.?
7:23 a.m. Depends on which direction I was
heading towards my work.
Well, I don't know. What was they in?
The one with no window in the back.
Oh, most of them haven't got windows in the back. I was in a little one. Does that help?
Oh, no, that wasn't you then.
No, okay.
No,
that wasn't me then. Okay,
No.
What riveting for the listeners.
I know.
I'm quite sure of this conversation. Absolutely.
Are you still driving that small bus?
Yes, I am. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a coach. I have you know. It's a very nice one. I'm in
small
tomorrow.
coach.
It's very nice. I
Minuscule
like it.
coach.
Nev, save us, please, will you? Hello,
And
Nev.
joining us from his manor house in Buckinghamshire, it's the awesome Neville Bounds.
Well, good evening, everyone, and great to be back on the show. It's been a busy week, that's for sure, certainly at work for me. Everybody seems to have all come back together on Monday, so Monday all the email and phones lit up. So I'm happy to say I'm quite glad for a rest this weekend, because it's been a bit full on for my liking. But I've had a very nice day today because I had lunch with Jenny and her daughter and her husband, and we'll be featuring a bit of video later on.
Yes, because Jenny was very lucky. She won the Star Prize in the Christmas competition. So well done again to you, Jenny, for that, and to everyone who won a prize. On that note, we've got most of the prizes have been sent out. We're just waiting for Tony Kinsley just to drop us a line via email with where you want your air crash investigation DVDs to be sent. So, Tony, if you're listening to the show, do drop us an email and let us know where to send your DVDs. So, time check then. It's just gone past 7 p.m. on the 11th of January 2019, and well, it's been a fantastic week here in the aviation world for me, because I've had the attack of the Apaches.
Oh, have you? Right.
Yes. The guys at RAF Wattisham, which is not far from where we live here in East Anglia, have been using the training, the flight school where I learned to fly, as a kind of training ground.
They do that quite a lot, don't they?
Actually? Yeah, because that's not far from you as well.
It's not. No, indeed. Actually, in fact, I have to confess, we did briefly stand outside and
wave
and watch the. Well, not wave. I think slightly more worried that we were going to be shot down. That's slightly unnerving.
Yeah, they've been very busy this week, flying over where I work, and very low indeed as well.
Yeah,
and I managed to get a wave from one of the guys on Wednesday, which was quite nice, as he was flying over at about 300 feet.
As you do.
So we've got lots of stuff to get through in the show this week, including the 6th instalment and the final instalment of the Sir Richard Johns interview, which is going to be awesome to watch for those of you guys who've been following that. We've also got a little segment that's been sent in from Pip, I think, have we, Matt?
No.
Oh, we got that next week.
That's next week.
That's next week. Well, we have got a segment coming from Pip next week.
I'm afraid it arrived a little bit too late for me to process, unfortunately.
But we do have, obviously, the video, as Nev said, of his meet-up with Jenny at a very nice-looking restaurant, I will say, as well. We've got some military news coming up later on the show. So that's all to come. So we are going to start the show then a little bit, not as swiftly this week, because we've got some housework to do. It's the beginning of the month, and we've obviously got to say thank you to a very many people. So Nev, what's going on there?
Yes, very much so, and thank you very much to all our Patreons, and we really appreciate your contributions. This month they are Adam Spink, Adrian Meacham, Andrew Wilson, Captain Jeff, Eric Graves, Evan Shue, Graham Haley, Jeff Ward, Jenny Parkinson, Jonathan Warner, Jordan Rose, Liz Piper, Masha, Matt Caton, Matt Donemeyer, Matt Bunting Frame, Myla, Owen, Neil Lanwarn, Nick Anderson, Nico, Philip Labe, Ray Williams, Ruben Wells, Ryan Harper, Stuart Backer, Stephanie Plummer, Steve Andress, Stuart Black, and York Mola. Thank you all for your brilliant contributions. They make such a difference for us.
Yeah, thanks to everyone. And also to Tom Thomas as well, who donated via PayPal, the old school way of donating. So thanks to you, Tom Thomas, for your donation as well this month. Very, very grateful. It's been very good indeed in helping us to move the show along as we do, and it helps to pay for everything, really, guys, and all the bits and pieces. And
I've been working on website this week.
Yes.
So, new website to come. Hopefully,
I'm looking forward to that
in the coming days. But
is it shiny?
I'm sort of pleased. I don't know. I think I'm pleased with it. But let me wait till. Hopefully, I'll have something for you guys to look at when we have our annual production meeting next weekend.
Let's be fair, Matt. You're good at what you do, and it's going to look amazing. So there we go.
We'll see. We'll see.
So we are going to start the show then, as we do each week, with our rundown of the weekly news from around the world and the UK. So if you're ready, Matt.
Yes.
And if you're ready, Nev.
Fully ready, Captain.
I just realised he's still. Oh no! You see.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Just keep stalling. It'll be fine. I'll find the right button in a minute. Keep talking. Yeah, I can't find it. It's all right. That's fine.
To make carry on, I'll lead the segue even further.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
What was my instructions?
So
my instructions were to keep talking. What did you do? You stopped talking.
Are you ready then?
Born.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Let's go. So, kicking off this week's first news story on the Bloomberg.com website, and great news for Brian Coleman, because United has regained its rank as the world's number 2 airline.
Is that something to be excited about?
Well, number 2 could mean many things, but anyway, moving on. The airline, the airline world has a new number 2 after United Continental Holdings Incorporate aggressive domestic expansion pushed the carrier ahead of Delta Airlines in terms of passenger traffic. Early last year, United embarked on an effort to regain market share at its 3 mid-continent hubs in Chicago, Houston and Denver. Under a 3-year push, United is targeting capacity increases of much as 6% annually as it seeks to increase flight connections, profits and its busiest airports. United last year recorded 230.2 billion revenue passenger miles, an industry yardstick of traffic that multiples the number of passengers by the distance flown. The company said on Wednesday this week in a statement, Delta had 225.2 billion according to a report last week, and Delta took over the number 2 spot in 2015 as Chicago-based United entrenched. He said, our goal is not to be the biggest, but we want to be the best. And as we implement our strategy, we are looking to build on this momentum in 2019, said United spokeswoman Megan McCarthy. American Airlines Group Incorporated, which has yet to release its traffic for all of 2018, is expected to regain or retain its title as the world's largest carrier. United also led a major US carriers in stock gains last year with a 24% jump, and the other 8 companies on a Standards and Poor's Airline Index all lost their values. So good news for United. I know they've recently took delivery of their latest Dreamliners as well, and I think United are one of the very few airlines in the world to operate all 3 versions of the Dreamliner: the Dash 8, the Dash 9, and the Dash 10, the largest of those. So I suspect Brian Coleman is rather happy now.
Very excited, I have no doubt. Indeed.
So the next story for you, Matt, is it's good news for Ryanair.
Right, okay. So this is on theguardian.com. Have I got the right story? Yes, I have. Yes. So it's Ryanair ranked Worst airline for 6th year in a row. Bad food and uncomfortable seats leave airline bottom in latest Which survey. So Ryanair has been rated as the worst airline for the 6th consecutive year by Which, with the customer group claiming the Dublin-based carrier is still catching out passengers with hidden costs. In the annual survey of short-haul airlines, passengers gave the airline the lowest possible rating for boarding, seat comfort, food and drink and cabin environment. According to Which, Ryanair, which carries more passengers than any other airline in Europe, is also now the airline most consumers refuse to fly with. Of those who expressed a preference, 70% said they would not use Ryanair. Ryanair, however, dismissed the survey as unrepresentative and worthless. The poll suggests Ryanair's attempts to convince the flying public that it is a better airline have yet to pay off, while the refusal to pay compensation to passengers affected by strikes has again left its reputation in tatters. While Ryanair argues that repeated tweaks to its baggage rules have made travelling cheaper for many, the charges for assigned seating and cabin luggage can put their fares higher than those of their rivals, Which said the airline made £1.75 billion last year from ancillary revenues or extras, making up 28% of its total revenue. Assigned seating on the airline can cost up to £40 per passenger for a return journey, while a wheeled cabin case costs an extra £12 to £16 after changes were made to the baggage rules last year. Charges for putting a small case in the hold have been reduced, but the cost of checking in a 20-kilogram suitcase can more than double many advertised fares. So it's yeah, I don't know how I feel about this story, to be brutally honest with you. It is I mean, the thing is we all know what Ryanair is like, and yet you know, I think, was it last week we were talking about the load factors? They were absolutely insane. Was it a 96% load factor or something silly on? I mean, just I don't know. I mean, the thing is you know that the food is going to be awful. You know that but it is. I don't know. I still think it's really cheap. I don't.
They could run a story really being nasty, like really incredibly nasty to Ryanair, and they'd still have incredibly high load numbers next year and this year.
To think about is, okay, one might have an opinion about Ryanair, as I do, but think of the jobs that it's brought into the industry and also at the airports themselves, because many airports would just not be able to survive with some of the other flights that they had, but because they've got Ryanair serving it, it's brought a lot of commercial interest into those areas. So you've got to say that the knock-on effect of how successful Ryanair have been, despite the fact that most of the passengers don't like it, it's extraordinary, isn't it?
It is. It is. It's. But then could you argue perhaps that the complaints are higher purely and simply because more people are using them? I mean, could it be something as simple as that? Yeah. I mean, actually, if you looked at, say, percentages with another airline, would those numbers still work out to be the same? I mean, it's
on the site, Matt. It gives you a costs of extras on 3 short haul flights to Alicante. Now they give you three of the major kind of low cost airlines here in the UK. Ryanair being one, EasyJet and Jet2. And when you look at the difference in price as a whole between Ryanair and EasyJet, the two big two, so they base this on return fares.
I'm popping it up on screen.
Yeah, they base it on return fares, check suitcase, wheel cabin case, assigned seating, with all the extras and stuff, and the price difference between the two. So EasyJet comes in at 129 quid, and Ryanair comes in at 134 quid. There's not a huge difference.
And also, I mean,
two.
if you a lot of us are very good about being able to do it all in our hand luggage. So actually, if you are good at doing stuff like that, then you don't have to pay for any extras, even now.
And I will say, and you should know this as well, Matt, that EasyJet, there's more legroom.
There definitely is. Although I seem to remember talking to someone not that long ago, and they sort of disputed that actually the seat pitch, if you like, wasn't really a great deal different between Ryanair and say EasyJet. But
Chris Griggs is flying with them on Sunday. He says flight costs less than the tax.
I know. Yeah, well, that's not entirely uncommon, is it?
Andrew Wilson in the chat room said, I would love to be able to use EasyJet here in the Midlands.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, is that East Midlands Airport? Because it's BMI, isn't it? That's predominantly at East Midlands, isn't it?
Yeah. So next story, moving on, is one for you, Nev.
Oh, yes, the media had a field day with this, of course, the other day. And it's on the Sydney Morning Herald, and it's all about the drone. This time, it's at Heathrow.
Yes.
And Britain's Transport Minister, Chris Grayling, said that the military would be deployed with counter-drone technology. I've already spoken to both the Home Secretary and the Defence Secretary, and the military are preparing to deploy the equipment used at Gatwick at Heathrow quickly, should it prove necessary, the minister said. Scotland Yard said police officers were amongst those who saw the drone flown near the airport and confirmed that the military was involved in their response. Police officers were amongst those who saw the drone, said Commander Stuart Cundy. We're carrying out extensive searches around the Heathrow area to identify any people who may be responsible for the operation of the drone. Following today's sighting, military assistance has been implemented to support us. However, we will not be discussing in any further detail the range of tactics available to us, as this would only serve to potentially undermine their effectiveness, he said. Just before 6 p.m. local time, a spokesman for Heathrow Airport confirmed that they had stopped departures as a precautionary measure following the drone sightings. We're working with the Air Traffic Control and the Met Police and have resumed departures out of Heathrow after a short suspension, an airport spokesman said. We continue to work with the Met Police on reports of drones at Heathrow and will continue to monitor this and apologise to anyone that was affected. Scotland Yard said that it first received reports of a drone sighting in the vicinity of Heathrow Airport at 17:05. The Flight Radar 24 website recorded departures halting around 17:15 and resuming an hour later. The unfolding incident sparked fears of a repeat of the pre-Christmas chaos caused by reports of multiple drone sightings at London's second largest airport, Gatwick. More than 100,000 passengers were affected by the three-day chaos. It's still not known who was behind the operation of that drone, but Chris Grayling told the Commons on Monday that the government was prepared to deal with any further drone sightings near airports. Police are being given new powers to land and to seize drones. The Home Office will begin testing a range of counter-drone technology. It's already illegal to fly a drone within 1 kilometre of an airport in Britain. Heathrow averages 1,299 flights per day, making it the country's busiest airport with 78 million passengers transiting through in 2017. 81 airlines fly to 204 destinations in 85 countries that operate from the airport. Several flights from Australia were scheduled to leave Heathrow on Tuesday night, including the BA 015, the Qantas QF2 and the code share with Emirates QF 8006 bound for Dubai. So the media were in an absolute frenzy when this happened, because this happened, it sort of broke just before 6 o'clock. So all the people that have got the 6 o'clock news teed up, it's all, mega panic, and there's reporting going on, misreporting going on. And of course, within 4 or 5 hours, it's all died down again. So we're back to
I would just say, actually, I feel I need to say this because obviously we were talking about my drone in last week's show. And I must admit, when I was watching, because one of the BBC cameramen who happened to be there actually got a very clear shot of the drone.
He did, yeah.
And it matched mine perfectly. Even down to the green lights on the front and the red lights on the back.
Aha.
So I should just put it out there. I do have genuine proof of where I was at the time of the incident, and I have evidence here that I was at home. I promise. It was not me.
Let the police make that decision, mate.
Yeah, well, thanks for your support, Nev. Really appreciate it. But no, it was just a bit scary. It really was. But again, they're saying in the chat room here, like Neil Lamorne is saying, Liz is saying, that the media love the drone incidents. I mean, it's this thing. Are they happening more often, do you think, or is it just that now that the media has seen it happen once, that they're pouncing on every single vague drone sighting? I mean, presumably we've had drone sightings at these various airports in the past. But it's only making headline news now because of what happened at Gatwick. Or am I
think
speaking
this is
out
the
of
problem.
turn?
What's happened now? This whole Gatwick thing is just a catalyst
Yeah.
for any drone thing or sighting that may happen, maybe within the airport boundary or not. And of course, it's great media stuff, and the inaccuracy that's gone on over the last couple of weeks about this thing has been unbelievable. So I think it's all got to calm down a bit, and hopefully there are no more incidents, because the media just get their knickers in a twist over it. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
No, they do. It's worrying. And of course, one of the things that's interesting here is Tony's actually said again that some of the reported drone sightings could well have been perfectly legal. The whole thing is not very well. It's not being handled very well, is it? I think, which is what we were alluding to in last week's segment. But we're going over old ground, so we should probably move on. Really.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next story, and this one is on the A Times or AsiaTimes.com website, and we all know that since obviously 9/11, the visits to the flight deck for passengers are not allowed anymore, unfortunately. Very, very sad news indeed, because I loved that kind of part of the flying years ago. But the headline on the website is Chinese airline pilot grounded for seating his wife in the cockpit.
Ooh.
So a pilot with Shenzhen-based Donghai Airlines has been fined 12,000 yen or 1,756 US dollars and grounded for 6 months pending further disciplinary action after he was seated with his wife on the flight deck of the 737 on a flight that he commanded. Chen Guoxiang piloted flight DZ6286 from Nantong in eastern Jiangsu province to Langzhou in northwestern Gansu province, and the connecting flight from Langzhou to Beijing on the July the 28th this year, 28th, 2018. During the journey, he reportedly allowed his wife on the flight deck on 3 separate occasions. Chen was said to have ignored the strong dissenting views of fellow crew members and insisted on letting his wife into the cockpit. 2 pilots, co-pilots and a chief attendant and security officer on board the flight also faced fines and were served warnings for their failure to resolutely stop the severe violations, the airline has said. The carrier apologised to passengers and pledged to review safety protocols and procedures for all its staff. However, this only happened after China's Civil Aviation Administration stepped in and made a public safety announce breach, which soon aroused anger in the media. Some internet commenters opinioned, however, that the senior flight purser should be rewarded rather than punished because she confronted a senior officer. Before long, other professional violations by Chen came to light. On at least 2 separate occasions, he decided to initiate a departure, even though the actual passenger headcount on board was different from the flight manifest. In a separate incident on China Eastern Airlines, a flight was delayed on Tuesday this week after a passenger reportedly threw coins again into one of the engines. We heard about that actually not so long back then. Last year, I think that happened, didn't it? A passenger on the affected flight told local media the police were called soon after ground service spotted someone. It's safe to say that flight deck visits are definitely not allowed. I think even if
Certainly not while they're in flight.
yeah,
anyway,
even
yeah.
if you know, even if we know the pilot incredibly well, I think if we were all on board a Virgin, Acme Red flight. With a certain pilot that we all know and love, that I don't think we'd be allowed on the flight deck, as if we knew any pilots on any airlines, we wouldn't be allowed on the flight deck. And I would imagine it's a golden rule, even if you are family, that you can't get onto the flight deck, which, like I said, is a terrible shame. Because I think Matt, you agree, Nev, Matt would really love a flight deck visit if he was on.
Yeah.
I think you'd enjoy that, Matt.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Can I have that in writing? Yeah.
Now, I think the other thing that's happened here is obviously we've got some massive cultural differences between the part of the world that these gentlemen fly in and other parts of the world. and in terms of challenging authority and that kind of thing, where is that sort of encouraged as part of the, CRM and that kind of business in here in the European region, and certainly in the US as well, but certainly in the Far Eastern countries, that's a very different culture, and I just wonder if this is a contributory factor to it, possibly.
I mean, the thing is, I mean, we'd all love to be able to sort of be doing that, as you say, and perhaps one of the best ways of getting over my fear of flying in some respects is to have exactly that, a visit to the cockpit in the air. But the fact is, the rules have now changed, and they have changed, I presume, across the entire world. It isn't just
been the rule for a long while. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I mean that. Obviously, since 9/11, I know, but it's more. But the rules also apply. For the Asian carriers as well. It's not just a Western sort of
very true.
Part of the world. And if the rules are there, then you have to adhere to them, don't you?
I think definitely the 747 for you. You would love the flight deck on
Do you
there.
reckon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tons of room, and you can just kind of lounge around. There's two jump seats on the 747, which are which have got that lovely fur lining as well. Yeah, it's very nice.
Fur lining. Okay, good. Well done.
Perhaps we should drop a line. We must be able to get you a flight deck visit on a. We'll try.
Right. Okay. Please don't.
I think you'd enjoy it. Anyway, moving on. The next story for you, Matt, and it's good news because it's regarding a certain kind of story we've been following now for a few weeks. On the show.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we all know that Flybe was basically in trouble. I think we covered that story when it sort of first broke, didn't we? So this is on the BBC website. It's good news for us, actually, because Flybe is one of the few airlines that actually still fly out of Norwich for us. So Flybe rescued by Virgin and Stobart. So Flybe is being bought for 2.2 million, which doesn't seem like a lot of money.
No, it doesn't.
Because presumably they own the aeroplanes as well, don't they? But anyway, Flybe is being bought for 2.2 million by a consortium including Virgin Atlantic and Stobart Group. It will operate under the Virgin Atlantic brand, marking a return by Virgin to domestic flights following a failed attempt 5 years ago. Based in Exeter, Flybe carries around 8 million passengers a year. So the load factors aren't bad then, really, if you think about those kind of numbers. 8 million passengers a year from airports such as Southampton, Cardiff and Aberdeen to the UK and Europe. The deal needs shareholder approval, but is already backed by the board. The move comes after Flybe's profits warning back in October. Shareholders in Flybe will receive just 1p a share, and the consortium, which also includes venture capital firm Cyrus, will inject £100 million. Christine, is it Omers Widener, apologies if I've said that incorrectly, Flybe's chief executive, said the industry has been suffering from higher fuel costs, currency fluctuations and significant uncertainties presented by Brexit. We have been affected by all of it's that word, isn't it? We have been affected by all of these factors, which have put pressure on short-term financial performance, she said. Now, I think it is worth saying, actually, before we even started going live, we were talking about fuel prices, and you were saying, actually, that prices at the pump, Carlos,
diesel yes,
especially, has very much gone through the roof.
Yes, the prices of fuel have definitely gone up for motor vehicle fuel anyway. Yeah, and I think it's the same for aviation fuel as well. But it is good news. We were saying as well before the show that I think it's going to be good news for the short haul market here in the UK, because it gives us another well-known carrier to use, and I think it will add to the competition between all the other local, the other smaller short haul carriers in the UK.
Well, somebody came up with this suggestion today that the airline could be rebranded Flyve.
Ooh,
see what they did there?
That could work, couldn't it?
That's good. That is. I like that.
It does. Anyway, it says to support the ongoing operations of the airline, the consortium known as Connect Airways will initially lend £20 million to Flybe. A further £80 million will be invested in Flybe, which describes itself as Europe's largest regional airline. Connect Airways will also buy Stobart Group's a regional airline and aircraft leasing business. The group said it would create a fully fledged UK network carrier, an opportunity for Virgin, which currently focuses on long haul, to expand in the UK. Virgin, founded by Richard Branson, abandoned attempts to run domestic flights back in 2014 through its Little Red airline. Virgin Atlantic is now a joint venture with Delta Airlines. Do you know what? I didn't know that. So anyway, the story goes on, but it's good news, really. And let's be honest, I mean, Virgin is a decent brand, isn't it? So hopefully, positive vibes can be felt for this, and it's great news, really, to think that Flybe has actually got the help it needs. I think that's
saves jobs. That's
absolutely.
Thing,
Well, and and they are using predominantly the smaller airports, so like Southampton and Norwich, or Aberdeen, not so much. But it's great to know that these, perhaps if they could just work on their price a little bit.
Well, on that note, looking at, as Matt said, we have Flybe flights from Norwich to about 5 or 6 destinations here, a couple in Europe and most within UK. But a flight from Norwich to Aberdeen in Scotland, because it's always nice, it's a lovely part of the country up there in Scotland. How much, Matt, for a return flight, just for you? With your suitcase. This is with a suitcase. 23 kilos, so it's quite generous. Reserved seat, and also you can have your refundable ticket within 24 hours. So how much? Return, just for you. And this is in the peak time. This is summertime. Okay, this is end of July, beginning of August. Just to nip for a week up to Scotland.
To nip up to Scotland.
For you.
All right. I'm going to say £130.
Nev, any ideas?
Oh, I'm going to go 142.
Well, actually, it comes in at £201.
Oh, blimey. Right, okay.
Yeah.
I could drive it for far less than that.
Yeah. But I wonder whether with this...
But ironically, it's probably still cheaper than the bloody train.
Well, yes. But whether this price will obviously change now with this this whole thing. But it's interesting to see what happens there. But no, food for thought there.
Yeah, well, and good news for Flybe, I think, really. It's getting the backing from, it's getting the backing from a big carrier, isn't it? So that's got to be good news for jobs and slots.
Very true. So, Nev, next story is one for you.
Yes, well, we've all had a nice Christmas, haven't we? We've put on a bit of weight, possibly a few kilos.
I don't know what you mean.
But I think I'd be a bit cross if I went back to work and my employer told me, right, Nev, you've been a bit of a chubber over the last few days. You're going to have to lose some weight. Well, this is kind of what's gone on with Pakistan International Airlines, because on the businessinsider.co.za, it says that a Pakistani airline has told its crew members that if they are too overweight, they soon won't be able to fly. Pakistan International Airlines, PIA, sent a memo to its 1,800 employees stating that any flight attendants who fail to slim down to a certain weight within 6 months would be grounded. The memo, which was seen by CNN, was reportedly sent on January the 1st, 2019 by PIA's General Manager of Flight Services, Amir Bashir. It reads, any crew found above 30 pounds from the desired weight after 31st of January 2019 will be grounded and referred to Air Crew Medical Centre for medical evaluation and treatment until weight is reduced up to the desired standard or the BMI. And flight attendants who are currently 30 pounds, which is 13.6 kilos over the airline's limit, need to lose 5 pounds a month to remain eligible for flight duty, according to the memo, as the official excess weight limits will be reduced by this amount every month. Staff were reportedly also given a chart showing the different weight bands depending on their height. CNN reports that the guide says a medium frame woman who is 5'7", which is 170 centimetres tall, for example, should weigh between 133 and 147 pounds. That's 60.3 kilos to 66.6. Employees will be given regular weight checks too. Weight check of all the cabin crew will be carried out at their base stations respectively, and comprehensive data will be maintained for perusal of management, the memo reads. If the grounded overweight flight airlines lose enough weight, they'll be able to fly again. But in the meantime, they'll have to report to a grooming cell every month.
What?
That worries me.
That's not a good say. Somebody needs to look at their wording for that one. Moving on, yes.
Also, according to a PIA spokesman who spoke to CNN, the new weight limits will affect 100 crew members, which is 5% of their staff, and are described as a regular routine matter designed to ensure flight attendants appear slim, smart, and fit. No one would like to have shabby crew in the aircraft, he said, explaining that the ruling has the aim of improving both appearance and health of staff. The airline claims that passengers have complained about cabin crew being obese over the previous year, but it did not elaborate on how many complaints had been received. It's not the first time the airline has cracked down on the weight of its employees. In 2015, Air India banned 130 members of its cabin crew, most of whom were women, from flying because they were considered overweight. And in 2014, India's civil aviation regulator ruled that female flight attendants must have a body mass index of 18 to 22 in order to be able to fly, whilst the equivalent for men was a more lenient 18 to 25. This gender disparity was reportedly done away with in 2018 when the BMI restrictions for both men and women were made equal. What an extraordinary story that is.
It is. Now, I have to say, certainly, this is not entirely uncommonplace. I think I'm speaking fairly certainly for the Middle Eastern carriers. I don't think this is unusual. I'm not saying it's right by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not uncommon, is it?
No, and I think it's... But of course, it's a question of how these things are handled. I mean, certainly there needs to be probably a height and weight range, because that's sort of a prerequisite for all sorts of things. Being a policeman or woman, or being an aircraft, what have you. But I think that these sort of targets and this sort of thing, and the threat of not being able to fly if you don't hit the weight limit. I just think that you are going into very difficult territory there, and I think be interesting to hear what the unions have to say about that as well.
Really, yeah, this is true. It's yeah, I don't know. It's a tough life with Owen at the moment. I should just say it's. I didn't know you could do this where he is. You can actually. Order McDonald's online.
Oh, okay.
Look at that!
Yeah,
It's being delivered. How cool
Nice.
that? Is it just the UK where we can't have McDonald's delivered? Oh,
No, I don't think
do you know what? I could
no.
murder a big tasty right now.
Oh.
Yeah. No. Okay.
I've just put on 5 stone listening to that conversation.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
The next story is on the Mail Online website, and the headline: Norwegian becomes the first budget airline to offer free Wi-Fi for the full duration of long-haul flights.
Ooh, that's intriguing.
So Norwegian has said it's become the first low-cost airline to launch free Wi-Fi for the full length of its long-haul flights. The service enables passengers to browse the web, check social media, and send messages using their own smartphones, tablets, and laptops at no extra cost. A premium option has an introductory price tag of $14.95 or £11.74 for 3 hours, and is being advertised as fast enough to stream music, movies and TV. The Scandinavian carrier has begun rolling out the technology on its Boeing 787-9 Dreamliners and their 737 MAX aircraft. The first connected Dreamliner aircraft was delivered last month, and more than half of the fleet is due to offer free Wi-Fi by 2020. Boris Bubresko, Norwegian's Vice President of Business Development, said that we are continuously improving the in-flight customer experience and are delighted to be offering the airline the first free Wi-Fi for the full duration of long-haul flights. Millions of Norwegian customers have already enjoyed free Wi-Fi over the skies of Europe, and now long-haul passengers can continue to rely on free high-speed internet connectivity that will enhance and personalise their journeys. From being the first European airline to launch free Wi-Fi on all short-haul flights, followed by free live television, Norwegian's rollout of high-quality in-flight broadband services will offer businesses and leisure travellers even greater value at an affordable fare. Norwegian is working with wireless in-flight connectivity platform Cabin Connect by Collins Aerospace to offer the service. Lee Ann Ridgway, Vice President of Information Management Services at Collins Aerospace, said that we are collaborating with Norwegian to achieve their vision of optimising their aircraft and enterprise operations to address both cabin and flight deck requirements, as well as adding new capabilities for the future. In-flight Wi-Fi works via an antenna fitted to each aircraft fuselage, which communicates with Inmarsat's GX satellite network. In the UK, Norwegian currently operates 15 non-stop flights, long-haul flights from London Gatwick to Austin, Boston, Buenos Aires, Chicago, Denver, Las Vegas, Los Angeles and Miami. And from the 31st of March, New York, Orlando, Rio de Janeiro. From the 31st of March, San Francisco. From the 1st of April, Seattle, Singapore and Tampa. Now, I have to say, free Wi-Fi. It's not very often you get the option to have something free of charge.
Well, no, that is
especially
true,
when it comes to Wi-Fi on board aircraft. So that's not bad. You can pay the 12 euros, it says on here, 95 for the faster speed with the premium. But the basic package should give you the ability to surf the internet and, as it said, send messages, which is quite good. What do you think, Nev?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're always keen to know about internet and how it all works. But my experience so far of in-flight internet has been disappointing, to say the least. So I'm keen to see what's going to be coming next. And I certainly don't want to pay lots of money for it either. So, but yeah, you just got to, I mean, you know what happens on trains and this sort of thing when people start using the internet together. So suddenly you get 200 or 300 people doing the same thing. So the technology's got to be fairly robust to do this, but it will be interesting to see. But I mean, bearing in mind that, you know, most people have got at least 2 or maybe 3 devices on them. So suddenly you've got, you know, up to 900 devices trying to connect at the same time.
But then, to be fair, they could do a little bit like you say. The multi-device thing is a thing. I'll give you that. But okay, I'm using the camping and caravan sites as an example here. But they limit it to only one device. So you could nominate which device it was that you wanted, so whether it be your phone or your tablet that's connected and has the internet connectivity. And I mean, actually, as I say, I think because when we went over to Pittsburgh, I was on in United, and I have to say, for sending WhatsApp pictures and just sort of text backwards and forwards, it was absolutely fine. It was the very fact that we're 30,000 feet in the air and I'm sending WhatsApps to everyone. That really does, you know, given, you know, knowing what's involved in doing that while you're in the air, moving at what sort of speed roughly are you in?
600 miles an hour.
Yeah, absolutely, doing that, and I'm sending WhatsApp pictures to, you know, the likes of Owen and Carlos and all that. How insane is that? Just like pinging WhatsApps to people while you're in the air. So I'm kind of the other way, actually. I don't care that it's slow. The very fact that you can do it at all melts my mind.
And the fact it's free is also good.
Well, the free helps, admittedly, free does help. Yeah.
But like Nev says, you know, when you've got an aircraft at the long haul, the Dreamliner, when you've got 200 plus passengers, possibly all with their tablets streaming, on the websites and stuff, it would be interesting to see just what the speeds do then.
Yeah.
So Nev, moving on to the next story.
Yes, indeed, and. This is interesting.
It's actually supposed to be my story, isn't it?
Sorry. Is it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
But that was fine.
That's why you may have noticed I wasn't fully prepared.
No, indeed, which is most unlike Nev. There should have been an alarm bell ringing there immediately. Anyway,
nearly got you.
Shall I take this one?
You take this one,
right,
Matt.
so this is on the Flight Global website, and the headline is United is the first airline to operate all 3 787 variants. United Airlines, first Boeing 787-10 has entered revenue service, making the Chicago-based carrier the first to operate all 3 variants in the 787 family. The airline debuted the 787-10 on service from Los Angeles to Newark today. United currently has 40 787s in its fleet, comprising 12 787-8s, 25 787-9s, and 3 787-10s. Flight Fleets Analyzer shows that it has another 13 787-9s and 11 787-10s on order. The Star Alliance carrier says its second 787-10 will enter service in February on its route between San Francisco and Newark. International flights with a 787-10 will begin in March, with service from Newark to Frankfurt and Tel Aviv initially. United 787-10 seats 318 passengers in 3 classes. Besides United, only 2 other carriers hold orders for all 3 variants of the 787 family. Fleets Analyzer shows. Is it Al Nippon Airways and British Airways? There we are. Oh, BA. Well, there we are, Nev.
Yes, they're getting a Dash 10 too.
Yeah,
yes,
very exciting. So somebody explain to me, because I don't quite. I dare say I've asked this question again, so apologies if I'm repeating myself. But so, what is the difference? Is it between the 787, the Dash 8, the Dash 9, and the Dash 10? Is it basically just configuration, or is it got different engines, or is the hull different? I mean, how does it? What is the difference between the various 787 dashes?
I don't know the exact details, but it's usually to do with capacity, range, and that sort of thing. So the bigger the number at the end, usually, the higher capacity and probably the greater range as well. That's why airlines do different variants of different aircraft, because not all of the airlines need the same kind of configuration. And often some of the airlines themselves will do their own configuration in terms of seat layout.
Right. Okay. And that doesn't then give it another dash number. It's just
they'll run out of dashes.
It'll be a build number, I would imagine.
Okay.
So you get things like what is it, 737, 436, or A319 131, I think it is, something like that. So no, they there's always variants to deal with different types of route, different requirements, whether it's high density route, for example, for people, or whether they need to carry more cargo on certain sectors. So normally the bigger the number at the end, the larger the aircraft.
Right. Okay.
There's there's quite a stretch between the difference in length between the 787-8.
Okay.
You've got it will hold 242 passengers, whereas the Dash 10 can go up to 310 passengers.
Gosh, right, okay.
Yeah, so it's quite a bit longer, the Dash 10. Still yet to fly on one of those. Flown on the Dash 8 and the Dash 9, but a lovely aircraft to fly on. Very nice indeed. So the next story is on the USA Today website, and
maybe we could give that one to Nev, seeing as
Nev. Sorry, I'm miles away here. Away with the fairies.
All out of sequence today.
I know.
Yeah, what is the matter with you, honestly, boy?
Actually, Nev, this one is actually very, very good for you, because it's quite a techie kind of story. This
yeah,
one,
and actually, I like this story because it asks lots of questions which we may not have answers to, but let's give it a go anyway.
Okay.
The headline says, "Ask the captain, why haven't black boxes been replaced by streaming technology?"
Good point.
The question is, why are airlines still using 50-plus-year-old black boxes, which many times after unfortunate crashes cannot be found or are damaged, when the technology currently exists to transmit all the same cockpit data and voice information in real time via satellite communications? The answer: whilst technically possible, there are significant issues with real-time upstreaming of data. Who owns the data, and what can it be used for, and can it be hacked? The digital flight data and cockpit voice recorders have proven to be very successful over the decades, and there is reluctance to lose this proven technology. You refer to many times the recorders do not provide data. The number of such cases is very, very low. There may come a time when real-time uploading of data is used, but the unresolved issues and costs have so far kept the industry relying on the proven technology of recorders. So the other question is why is the black box still on the plane? If the plane is not recovered, then the data on board is lost. Surely these days it should be possible to transmit this data to ground stations en route. Well, although it's feasible to stream data, the storage and bandwidth requirements are significant. It's much more expensive, and there are serious legal issues that remain unresolved. Other than Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, airplanes involved in serious incidents or accidents have been found. The use of recorders has been very effective for a long time. In the relatively near future, airplane positions will be known all around the world as dependable satellite coverage increases, making recovery even more likely. Another question here, with all the redundancies on modern aircraft, why are there not duplicate black boxes, flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorders located in the front and the rear of the plane? The answer to that is the regulators have not found a need to carry the extra weight. The cockpit voice recorders and the digital flight data recorders have proven tough and provided data even after damage by impact forces or fire. There is a redundancy by having two recorders, and the other issue is cost. What they don't talk about in this article is, of course, a lot of the engine manufacturers, for example, are able to get real-time information coming back from the aircraft. Certainly Rolls-Royce do, and I'm sure the other manufacturers do, which shows engine trends and that kind of stuff. So in the case of Rolls-Royce, there's a whole bank of information going on up at their Derby HQ where they're manufactured, which does enable them to interrogate the aircraft's situation with regard to what the engines are doing. So that's not, that technology has been around for quite some time. It's very useful from a maintenance point of view, so they can flag up with the airline if they're seeing any nasty trends.
Tony's actually said in the chat room here, he's saying the CVR capacity surprises me. They're always getting overwritten.
Yes, and of course, in the old days, it used to be an endless loop tape. But of course, these days you've got, if they wanted to, you could have as much storage capacity as you wanted to, because it's very cheap. Even military grade storage is relatively inexpensive, and it wouldn't add much to the weight. So I don't know why they don't have longer recording ability on board, and I think there's a lot of protocol with regard to when you can reset or overwrite the cockpit data as well. So I don't know the details about that, but I would imagine that's there's set protocol for each airline about how they go about recording and erasing the data.
I mean, going back to it was mentioned in the story before about the talk of possible hacking. I mean, is that really an issue? I mean, one of the concerns about the data being transmitted is sort of, I mean, realistically, what are they going to be able to do with that information? I mean, essentially, it's just a data stream. I mean, it's.
Yes, it could be interrupted, couldn't it? And but I think the trouble is, what we have to realise now is that because we've all had situations from Facebook hacks to email hacks to password hacks, if you start multiplying all those potential problems up, into the big commercial world, that starts to become a big problem very quickly. Having said all that, of course, what are we doing every day of the week? We're buying our stuff from Amazon online with our credit cards, and we don't seem to have any problem with it. But I think that there's always, there's good resilience for hacking and that kind of stuff. But of course, as we know, that when you're trying to look after these situations, you're always going to be in a situation where you're one or two steps behind the people that want to do you harm, unfortunately. So they do their very best, but inevitably there's going to be some difficulty.
But I mean, you could combine the two, if you see what I mean. So where you've still got the black box as we know it, it is streaming the data so that the feed can be monitored, but also in the unlikely event of the feed being interrupted, you say, as a result of hackers, it can be readily made available by locating the black box as they do now. I mean, that I don't know. I just feel that they could get a lot more information by literally streaming it.
I think there's a lot of things that they could do to improve the technology that of the recording of flight deck sort of monitoring, stuff like that. And I think a lot of it boils down to cost. I think, which is a shame. But I'm sure there's something that could be done that's a lot cheaper than the avenues that they're going down. But I mean, the black boxes that are used on the aircraft now, I mean, they're fairly old technology as such.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we should move on.
Yes, the next story is
it's actually yours, Carlos. This
I know.
time.
Next story is on the IOL.co.za.
Okay. What's that? ZA? That's New Zealand, isn't it? No.
South Africa.
South Africa.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
And we often have good news stories about the Middle East big carriers such as Emirates being top of the game, big of the league, big league players. But this story is all about Qatar. Airline, and the headline, Airline looks back at a tremendously successful 2018. In anticipation of a successful 2019, Qatar Airways celebrated a successful year of robust network expansion, new aircraft deliveries and groundbreaking global sports sponsorship agreements. Qatar Airways Group Chief Executive, His Excellency Mr. Akbar Al Baker, said that our achievements in 2018 prove that Qatar Airways, or Qatar Airways, has not wavered from its strategy and vision of constant growth and development in order to provide our passengers the finest onboard experience every time they travel. We have demonstrated that we'll be not rest in our determination to push the boundaries in redefining the travel experiences of each and every one of our customers. So in A350-1000 in February last year, the airline took delivery of the A350-1000 as the global launch customer of the world's most technologically advanced aircraft. The new A350-1000 went to full commercial service on the airline's Doha-London route, on which the A350-900 and the A380 and the 777 and the Dreamliner already operate, offering 6 flights daily between Qatar and the United Kingdom. In the same month, the airline announced it would upgraded 5 of its current order of the A350-900s to the high-capacity -1000s. The airline has already taken delivery of 35 A350 aircraft, 29 of the -900 and 6 of the -1000, from a total order of 76 A350s. Blimey, Airbus must be clapping her hands. Route expansion. So one of the world's fastest growing airlines, Qatar Airways, launched the host of exciting new destinations in 2018, including Cardiff here in the UK, Canberra, Australia, Mombasa in Kenya, Gothenburg in Sweden, Da Nang in Vietnam, and Thessaloniki in Greece as well. And the airline also launched seasonal services to Mykonos in Greece, Bodrum and Antalya in Turkey, and Malaga in Spain. The airline also added a host of new frequencies to several popular destinations, including Montreal, the Maldives, love it there, Bangkok, Phuket, Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, Amman, Muscat, Helsinki, Madrid, Barcelona, Rome, Milan, Vienna, Oslo, Copenhagen, Manchester and Zurich. 2018 was also a big year for cargo for the airline, with cargo volumes increasing by 10.6% in 2018 compared to 2017. The highlight has been to launch the Trans-Pacific services direct from Macau, to Los Angeles and Mexico City, and the new freighter service demonstrates the carrier's commitment to customers in helping their businesses grow, offering them reduced flight times and quicker services without the stopover in Doha. The cargo carrier bagged 2 prestigious awards in 2018, International Cargo Airline of the Year at the Air Cargo India event, and Best Air Cargo Carrier Middle East and Asian Freight Logistics and Supply Chain Awards. These awards recognise the carrier's continued drive to emphasise in delivering highest levels of service in the air cargo industry. 2 brand new 777 freighters joined the cargo fleet, bringing the total figure of freighters in the fleet to 25. Now, I've only flown with Qatar once, and that was quite a few years back now, but yeah, it was. They really are a really good airline to fly. It was an old 330 that I flew on, so it's probably not a good comparison as to what the 350s and stuff are like now. But they're definitely one of the we all know one of the big Middle East 3 carriers. Have you ever flown Qatar, Nev? Or you?
No, I haven't actually. No. I haven't flown any. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I did. Yes, I did fly an A330 back from Dubai in 2006. It was, yes. That was actually in the cheap seats. It was really quite nice. I can't really complain at all, actually. Very, very good service. Nice folks.
Yeah. So moving on to the next story, and Matt, this one, I thought this one was a good one for you because you are a lover of the live music scene.
Although I have
being
to
an
say,
ex-publican.
I have to say, the one thing that makes me very nervous about this story is I hope they're not using the in-flight PA, but more will become apparent in a moment because the quality would just drive me bananas. But anyway, so this is on the Channel News Asia website. It says channelnewsasia.com, and the headline is in Jakarta. So Indonesian national carrier, is it Garuda?
Garuda, yeah.
Garuda.
That's
Is it
it.
Garuda
That's
or
the one,
Garuda?
Garuda.
Yeah. Okay, is bringing music to the skies with a series of live acoustic concerts on domestic flights. The airline said so. Passengers will be serenaded at 35,000 feet in a scheme aimed at wooing millennials who want a different flight experience. Airline spokesman, who I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce, has told AFP. The carrier held its first in-flight concert on Wednesday, that's the 9th of January, when two musicians performed for a captive audience aboard a flight between the capital Jakarta and the holiday island of Bali. So Garuda said that Garuda said sets would last 10 to 15 minutes on selected flights, and there would be a focus on promoting upcoming talent. While it may prove an unforgettable flying experience for some, it may not be to everyone's idea of a good time. In 2017, US airline Southwest introduced live shows on some flights to a mixed reaction from passengers. Some travellers said they preferred minimum human interaction, that's where I'd be, while flying, and said music would distract them from sleeping or reading. Indonesia is one of the world's fastest growing aviation markets, but it has come under fresh scrutiny since a fatal Lion Air crash in October last year that killed all 189 people on board. Garuda said that it had embarked on extensive consultation to ensure the constants pose no threat to safety or security. If there is the potential of turbulence, the singer will be directed to sit back in his chair, Rosen said. How do we feel about this, Nev?
Nev, what do you reckon? Live music on aircraft?
Well, I'm going to be a bit boring here and say, because I'm of a certain age now, it wouldn't really suit me, but the youngsters might like it.
Yeah, and as I say, and I'm sure you will agree with me, Nev, I certainly hope they're not using the in-flight PA as a way of
what, on
beaming
those fantastic speakers?
Yes, absolutely. It's just, the ones where you can barely understand the captain, let alone dealing with, acoustic live sets and stuff.
Have you ever wondered why aircraft speaker systems are so poor?
Yes.
Because they are, aren't they? When have you ever been on an airline and thought, God, that's really crisp and clear and perfect sound?
Actually, you see, the front end, this is what I don't understand. I know it's all about weight saving and cost and all the rest of it, but you can buy, in our industry where I work, you can buy some exceptionally high quality, in ceiling type speakers, but not very much money at all.
Peanuts,
and the clarity is really superb. And obviously with a nice, little amplifier to drive them all properly, it should work okay. But yeah, so often the quality of the PA in terms of the audio quality is shocking, isn't it?
Absolutely. And yet, weirdly, as you say, everything's moved on so rapidly. You'd have thought in this day and age that actually that it wouldn't cost them very much money. It probably costs them more money to get the antiquated, out-of-date speaker systems that we have become so used to on our in-flight PAs. It's probably costing them a small fortune. But then the other question is perhaps they're using it because it is the only system that has perhaps met certain criteria when it comes to crash testing quality? And things. No, not sound quality, but in the same way that I think until very recently they were still using DX266 chip processors on things like the spacecrafts and things like that, because it was the only thing that had been tested to meet the standards required. I mean, could it be something as simple as that?
I mean, when you look back sort of millions of years ago with car speakers, the cones were made of paper.
Me beautifully.
You know when you used to take a speaker out of your old cars and stuff, and the cones were made of paper. And I honestly, some of I think one of the worst ones that I can remember was one of Virgin Atlantic's 330s that we flew on.
Okay.
And the speaker system was so bad that you
couldn't
knew
hear
they were
the-
speaking.
yeah.
The flight crew was speaking, but you could not understand a single word they were saying.
And I mean, actually, Nev, seriously, from a safety point of view, bearing in mind, obviously, they do the flight demo and everything usually through that same PA system. Surely, clarity is
That should
key.
be paramount. That should be the thing that should be perfect.
Yeah, and I think that when you're, I don't know who are the manufacturers for most of the speakers used in aircraft, for example, but it's not just about the quality of the speaker itself. It's about the sound volume itself and how it's distributed through the cabin. But yeah, these are safety critical things. So you would have thought that sound quality was the ultimate
key,
goal for all this, but so often we're all a bit disappointed.
And
aren't
I've had when I did my flight, what was I in? It was United, wasn't it? That I was flying with, and I'd taken with me this set that Nev very kindly gave me. These lovely Shure earpieces, and I had it plugged into the in-flight entertainment system, and the film and everything was absolutely fine. But as soon as because the PAs override, don't they?
Yeah,
Whatever it is that you're listening to in your earpiece, and it was
Like that.
still awful.
Yeah.
So it could be just something as simple like they're using a phone, to do it. I don't know. It just seems so as you say, when decent AV equipment is so cheap these days.
Neil
Nev, it seems very
Lamorne in
odd.
the chat room said that the PA system in his distribution centre is completely unintelligible unless you're in the canteen or the toilets.
Oh, okay. In the toilets. Okay. Well, that's where you want to be most comfortable, of course. Anyway.
Yeah, perhaps if there's anyone out there within the industry itself, in the aviation industry, perhaps you could drop us a line and tell us just why the speakers are so rubbish.
Indeed. Anyway, we've spent far too much time on this particular topic. Nev, I think it's your go next.
Yes.
It is, and I think we've got a top 5.
Oh no! Oh, I'm not prepared for that. See, which is where I should have read more further into my
show notes.
Are you haven't read the show notes?
No, hang on, I'm on
surprise,
it.
Surprise!
The unexpected
hits you between the eyes.
Okay, so but it's all right. I'm really good at this. I can.
So while Matt's doing that, Nev, what's this top 5 all about?
Well, of course, it's on the sun.co.uk where we all go for all of our aviation information. Yes. And it says, up and away, the world's busiest airports by passenger traffic. Travelling the world has never been more accessible as airports are continually expanding. And travelling the world as airports are continuously expanding and growing to accommodate more passengers and airlines. We explain what the 5 busiest airports by passenger traffic are based on civil aviation data analysis, half-year figures for 2018. So because this is a top 5, we should start with number 5, really, shouldn't we?
We should, yes, absolutely. And hopefully, if I press all the right buttons...
Yay! Ooh! So come on, Matt, bring us in.
In 5!
So at number 5, it is Tokyo Haneda Airport. For the first half of 2018, 41 million.
Wow.
60,000 passengers travelled through the airport, and it's the 3rd busiest airport in Asia.
In 4.
Los Angeles International Airport. For the first half of 2018, 42,380,000 passengers travelled through the Californian airport. It's the US's 2nd busiest airport, and it's the largest and busiest international airport on the US West Coast.
In 3.
Now, I thought this would have been the biggest one, but anyway, number 3, Dubai International Airport. For the first half of 2018, 43,740,000 passengers travelled through the Middle Eastern airport, and the airport is the 6th busiest cargo airport in the world.
Wow. In 2.
And for the first half of 2018, it's Beijing Capital International Airport with 49,380,000 passengers that travelled through the Chinese capital. The airport has become Asia's busiest airport for passengers since 2009, and since 2012, it's become the 13th busiest airport for world cargo traffic.
And Bully's special prize!
Yes, at number 1, it's an airport that I really want to try and go to at some point in my life. It's Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. For the first half of 2018, 52,640,000 passengers travel through the southern airport. The airport is named two of Atlanta's former mayors, Mayor William B. Hartsfield and Maynard Jackson. It has 209 domestic and international gates and has 5 parallel runways. Also known as Atlanta Airport, it's been the world's busiest airport for passengers traffic since the year 2000, and more importantly, it's a hub for Delta Airlines.
Okay, that's fantastic. Great news, yes.
52 million, man.
That's a very large.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, that is a lot of people, isn't it? Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of crusty creme donuts.
You certainly don't get a lot of that many at Norwich.
Yeah. Anyway, moving swiftly on. So that brings the commercial news segment to a close. Hope you all enjoyed that, the big stories this week. So up next then, we're going to hand things over to Nev to introduce the very special part of the show.
Yes, well, you've been listening to the Sir Richard Johns interviews, hopefully with us over the last 5 weeks or so, and this is the final part of the excellent interview that Captain Nick did with Sir Richard Johns. And Sir Richard talks about his final years in the Air Force and how the government budget cuts had affected the strategic operations.
You left the Air Force in better humour than when you, your post, I should say, in the Air Force in better humour than when you arrived?
No, not really.
There was little you could do?
Yes, there were an awful lot of things that you could do, which I think I did. I mean, an example. I mean, just one little example of the things. I mean, I've obviously felt very, very strongly about the manpower problems in the Air Force, because everything that we did a sort of a future strategy day for the Air Force in my last year. And when you did a SWOT analysis, which you no doubt are familiar with, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and so on, everything came back to the simple fact that the greatest strength in the Royal Air Force was its people, the quality of the men and women in the service. And if we did nothing else, we had to protect that quality within the Air Force. And that meant not just retaining people. So we didn't lose the vast amount of experience, technical experience, operational experience, because people were going too soon. But that we actually attracted similar quality people into the Air Force. And that was hugely important. And then when you looked around what the Air Force was doing, and particularly a bee in my bonnet, was that when I went round the service, in a number of places in the officer structure, and particularly in the ground branches, you found warrant officers were doing the jobs that should have been filled by junior officers. Why? Because we couldn't recruit them. So why weren't the warrant officers being commissioned and so on, as opposed to going out at various stages? And I had seen this happen in the Army. In the Army, if you were suitable for commissioning, warrant officers got commissioned very quickly. And so I said, we're going to do this in the Air Force. I see absolutely no reason why we shouldn't fast track. Well, I remember people saying, but we're going to get a second-class officer in the Royal Air Force. I said, good, because I know too many third-class officers, etc., which killed one argument with slight exaggerations. But the thing was, they were saying, well, they aren't volunteering. And I said, well, for Christ's sake, if you were a warrant officer, let's say age 35, who had been done really well to get his royal warrant at that age, are you going to go to Cranwell and then submit yourself to initial officer training when you've got sergeants yelling at you who only a couple of days before were calling you sir and so on? I said, it's just not human nature. Why should they have to do this? And particularly if they're already doing an officer's job. So we're going to have fast tracking of warrant officers in the Air Force. That's precisely what happened. And I do remember very clearly going up to Cranwell. I said, one thing I did throw my toys out of the cot about, I said, it's got to be done in a weekend.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. I said, they go to Cranwell on a Friday, give them their uniforms, turn them out Queen's regulations or whatever, and kick them out on Monday, and they're flight lieutenants straight away. Well, and then someone came back and said, we need an extra day. And I said, what's that for? And they said, sword drill. And I went, and then it went bonkers. Anyway, so that was kicked out. And basically, I forget, it was a little bit long, that was about 4 or 5 days. And I went up for the first commissioning of these chaps, which we gave them a nice scroll. And so, in fact, I knew a couple of them from the past. But the interesting thing was, I mean, they were very, in fact, a couple of them ended up as wing commanders. The interesting thing was, it was their wives. And their wives, almost without exception, were professional women. They were teachers, nurses and things like that. And their pleasure at seeing their husbands have an extension of service, well, not an extension of service, because they'd have stayed in the Air Force as a warrant officer to age 55 if they wanted to. But then completely new avenue of advancement opening up in front of them within the Royal Air Force, that to me was the greatest reward. So you could do things. But getting back to your question about leaving the Air Force, did I feel happier? I felt very happy and I felt very proud to have done the job and to have had this great privilege of being the professional head of the service. But the Air Force that I left in 2000, it wasn't as operationally good, I thought, as the one that I inherited, simply because the rate of technology was advancing so quickly that we couldn't keep up with it, because we knew what to do, but we didn't have the money to do it. And as I left, well, several months before I left, all the signs were there for another big raid on the defence budget.
Did it occur?
Yes. I can remember very clearly that at an Air Force Board Standing Committee meeting early in the year 2000, VCDS, Vice Chief of the Defence Staff, Admiral Sir Peter Abbott, who was a great chum of mine, we had suffered during the Not Defence Review together, and we had been at RCDS together, and Admiral Mackham came down to see us, to brief us on further savings that were required from the defence budget. And it wasn't just further savings. We were under pressure at the time. We had to produce 2% so-called efficiency savings, and that was going to go up to 3%. Well, it didn't sound very much, but in terms of the money that you got, it was a lot of money. And I thought, here we go again.
Yeah, very sad.
Yeah.
Your book is fascinating, and it's very rare that we get a chance to pick the mind of someone who's been in the most senior ranks of the Air Force, and yet has a background that goes way back to aviation in the first generation of jet fighters. So thank you very much indeed for writing the book. It's lovely. I very much enjoyed reading it, and thank you very much indeed for talking to us about it today.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Much enjoyed our chat. Thank you.
There's no doubt that Sir Richard Johns had a most illustrious career, which took him from an officer cadet at RAF Cranwell to the highest ranking officer in the Royal Air Force. Along the way, he flew the very first generation of jet fighters, progressing to one of my favourites, the Hawker Hunter, and onto the most remarkable aircraft ever to fly, the Harrier. He describes many of his more daring exploits in amusing detail, some of which will make your eyebrows rise. In addition, the recollections of his time as a flying instructor with one very special student are great. His career took off in more ways than one, and he forged through to some great posts as a squadron commander, station commander, and then up into the highest echelons of command. Whilst many of us will prefer to read about his flying exploits, it's also interesting to hear about the life of those who achieve air rank and end up in the exotic and difficult job of dealing with a government intent on paring down the size of the service that he so obviously loves. This book may well have a place on the shelves of both aviation enthusiasts and senior politicians alike.
Wow. Nev, I think we should have a round of applause, really, for Nev and Captain Nick as well, because that has been a fantastic set of interviews. Honestly, Nev, the production quality was just, well, it was 8K.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, and but at the end of the day, as I've said before, it's all about the content. I'm just pointing the cameras and doing the editing, but Nick's contribution was
incredible.
fantastic.
Yeah, well done, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Richard's story is marvellous. So he mentioned a few things there that are in the book, but he also mentioned a few things that aren't as well. So that's what made it even more special.
Absolutely. And for those of you, seriously, anybody who has missed any of the episodes of this, you will find them all on our YouTube channel. It is seriously worth, if you are into your military or aviation in general, frankly, it is a fascinating chat. All 6 parts will now be available from tonight. And there's also a little playlist actually which will enable you to watch all of them in sequence from start to finish.
Yeah, Jonathan Warner just put in the chat room actually, Matt, that would it be possible to release an episode 251.5 with the interview in its entirety?
I'm sure we can do that, Nev. What do you reckon?
Yes, we've got it all there. So
absolutely.
Yes, that's no problem at all. I've just got to upload episode 6 later on, and then we're all done.
Indeed. As I say, it already exists in the form of a playlist, Jonathan. So just literally click on the playlist, and it will run all of the episodes back to back for you. But
I mean, I was just saying before we started the show, and I watched the episode 6 today, and I'm probably going to go back and watch the entire lot again.
Absolutely, yeah. Me too.
One after the other, because, like I said, it was so good.
But I think actually, I think we should. I think Jonathan's right. So we'll perhaps release a 251.5 as audio only as well.
Yeah, good idea.
Just release it as because we do have the space. So let's release it as sort of like a 0.5 episode in its entirety.
Yeah.
What a great idea! Thank you, Jonathan.
Well done. Well done, and I hope you all have enjoyed those episodes.
I'm going to miss it. I really am going to miss it.
What we're going to do next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nev talks to President Putin. No.
That would be great, absolutely. Although, on the plus side, next week we do have our very first episode from Pilot Pip, so that will be a very
Pip's
fascinating...
back.
Yeah, Pip is back with a very special episode for us, so that is what we'll be replacing... well, not replacing, because you can't replace it. It's been an amazing series, but that is what we'll be featuring next week.
So, as we said, Jonathan Warner is just mentioned that good idea, and on that note, Jonathan Warner, we have got some military aviation news. So, if everyone is ready to rock and roll,
ready for the grey.
Let's go.
Here we go.
So the first story this week in the military news, and it's on Flight Global, and it's a tanker story, because we love a tanker story. A bit like what David Vanderhoff does on the Airplane Geeks. Anyway, the headline, Russia's improved IL78 tanker makes flying start. So the improved United Aircraft IL78 M90A tanker commenced factory flight testing with a debut sortie conducted from Avistar SP production site in Ulanovsk in late last month. Key changes implemented with the updated model include new wings with increased fuel capacity and Perm PS90A76 engines, in common with the 90A version of the Ilyushin 76 transport aircraft. In addition to delivering improved fuel efficiency, these will also reduce the tanker's takeoff distance as well, despite an increase in maximum takeoff weight. Besides its enhanced tanker performance, UAC notes that the new model can be reconfigured for use as a transport by removing its additional onboard fuel tanks as well. The Dash 90A also has new navigation systems that will enable it to operate in international airspace in accordance with civilian requirements. Following the completion of its current flight test phase, the Ilyushin 78 M90A will be transferred for state trials from Zhukovsky Airfield near Moscow. Moscow has previously outlined an intention to acquire 31 of the new generation tankers, and Fleets Analyzer records the Russian Air Force as having 20 Ilyushin 78s in current use. These age between 27 27 and 33 years old. Now, it's good to note on that story that they're improving the kind of the computer systems in the aircraft, and obviously the enhancements with navigation systems and stuff. Because if any of you have seen the flight deck pictures of these aircraft, I'll tell you what, Matt, you think dials and switches are a lot on old aircraft. These have got dials and switches in bucket loads.
Yeah, I bet.
And it's definitely a master, I think, to fly these Russian aircraft. But I'll tell you what, they're built to last, though.
Yeah, I bet they are.
So next story.
Yeah, Nev, I wonder if I could trouble you to perhaps load up the next story for me, because there's some cracking pictures that are on this story which I'd like to show, actually. So if I could trouble you to open
it's
that
it's on the Flight Global website, which we like, and I like it because it's got a nice font and it's
it's nice and easy to read, isn't it? Do you know what? There is a slim possibility that there is some actual quality journalism in this particular publication.
It's on Flight Global,
because
so
the stories are usually accurate, which is very refreshing.
Place to go for good content, and this is a good one because it's got some great pictures with it as well. And it says that Saab's second GlobalEye makes flight debut for the UAE. And this Saab's second order of 3 GlobalEye surveillance aircraft on order for launch customer the United Arab Emirates completed a 2-hour, 54-minute debut from its Linköping site in Sweden on the 3rd of January. Using a Bombardier Global 6000 long-range business jet as its basis, the GlobalEye system combined a Saab Airline ER active electronically scanned array radar mounted above the fuselage with a Leonardo Seaspray 7500E maritime search radar, electro-optical infrared sensor and electronic warfare equipment. With several onboard stations for mission system operators, the platform will be capable of performing simultaneous airborne early warning, maritime and ground surveillance duties. The UAE announced an order for 2 GlobalEye platforms at the Dubai Air Show in November 2015 before subsequently committing to buying a third example. Carrying the registration Sierra Echo Romeo Mike Zulu and having collected flight test data during its first sortie, the program's second aircraft got airborne less than 10 months after Saab's lead example, which made its debut in March 2018. Saab has not disclosed when the Rolls-Royce BR710 powered type is due to be delivered to the UAE. Well, what a fantastic looking aircraft.
Isn't it?
It's got a sort of a handle you can pick it up by.
Yeah, absolutely. I also suspect that the interior, seeing as it was an business jet, I suspect the interior perhaps isn't as glorious as it once was. If it's now
when I worked in Sweden in Linköping, which is just very close to it's halfway between Gothenburg and Stockholm. So I worked there for sort of 10 or 11 years on and off, and our office was very close to the Saab City Airport, which is where the Saab military base is as well. And the noise of some of these aircraft going off the runway was just unbelievable. So I've got a sort of a soft spot for that part of the world, certainly. But it looks an incredible aircraft, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Yeah, it really does. It's a beautiful bit of kit. It's well, I mean, it always amazes me though, and I know we've spoke about this before. But
how does it fly with all the bits on
exactly, with this ridiculous growth on its head? How does it fly? I mean, I can't get my head around it. I really can't. It must have a real impact on its ability, on the handling of the aircraft. In the same way that if you put a massive thing on the roof of your car, it would go round corners and over bridges differently. But anyway,
perhaps you can try it with the coach, mate.
No.
Okay.
Next story is on the
This
Air
is a
Force
nice
technology.
story. I think this is really good.
Well, it isn't, and it isn't, and I'll explain what.
Controversial?
No, it's not controversial. What bothers me is that in 2019. This is still a thing.
Oh, yeah.
That is more what annoys me, because at the end of the day, if you are qualified and capable of doing it, it shouldn't matter what.
I thought you were going to be angry with the font.
No. Well, the font, yes, it's challenging.
Actually, anyway, they could have done better with the font on this one.
I couldn't agree more, and I'm the one that's reading it. So wish me luck. First female F-35 test pilot completes flight mission testing. This is on the Air Force Technology website. The US Air Force, the USAF, has reached a milestone as Major Rachel Winecki became the first female F-35 test pilot to lead and complete an F-35 Lightning II fighter jet mission. The mission, which was completed at the Edwards Air Force Base in California on the 14th of December 2018, signifies an increasing presence of women in the United States Air Force test missions. Winecki of the 461st Flight Test Squadron said, "I may be the first female developmental test pilot in the F-35, but test pilots are just one small part of the test enterprise. I am grateful for the women who have broken barriers previously. They've built the path. I look forward to the day when sorties like this are a regular occurrence," and I couldn't agree with her more on that particular statement. She added that although it is a field traditionally dominated by men, the number of females in aviation, and particularly in the United States Air Force flight test process, is starting to increase, and that there are now several female test directors, test conductors, discipline engineers and flight test engineers in the 461st Squadron. Commander of the 461st Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Tucker Hamilton, said that Major Winecki was selected to become an F-35 test pilot based on her exceptional flying ability and the important voice she brings to the F-35 development as a prior A-10 Thunderbolt pilot. Oh, that's interesting. According to Winecki, her experience of the A-10 mission sets, such as close air support, combat search and rescue, and forward air controller, can be applied to the 461st fleet of F-35 jets in order to fully test both air-to-air and air-to-ground capabilities. I really do appreciate the perspective that I can bring coming on from the A-10 and the F-16 to hopefully bring some influence from that perspective. As testers, the contacts we have back in the Combat Air Force are valuable, she said. We can reach out to our networks to solicit feedback, solicit information on how we could and should accomplish our mission sets in future. That's really where we can open doors. I can reach back to my friends and contacts in my previous community, just like other test pilots here. Before joining the 461st Squadron, Winecki flew A-10C fighter jets operationally across Southwest Asia, Eastern Europe and the Pacific region. After graduation from the USAF Test Pilot School at the Edwards Air Base, Winecki was reassigned as an F-16 Fighting Falcon test pilot with the 416th Squadron. The 412th, the 412th, sorry. I don't quite know. 412. I don't really know how. In the story, it says 412 ND, which has sort of surprised me. So I'm going to say the 412th Test Wing Commander, Brigadier General E. John Tykert, said that Major Winecki's accomplishments are exactly why we continue to be at the centre of aerospace testing universe. Breaking barriers is what we do, with history making impact every day for the war fighter. The breakthrough comes at a time when the United States Air Force is suffering from a long-term pilot shortage. In March last year, the United States Air Force teamed up with NATO to try and address the issue. Now, it's a lovely story, it really is, and I'm delighted that, but as I say, I do find it very bizarre that in 2019 this is still headline news, and it's sad that it is still considered headline news. I mean, it shouldn't matter what your religion is, whether you're male, female, you're qualified. That should be the only reason why you should be either approved or denied, in my opinion.
No, it's good to see. Obviously, we talk every now and again. There's stories in the commercial sector where there's, all female pilots and stuff like that. And as you said, Matt,
it should be sad that it's still a thing.
Normal.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be headline news in this day and age. Should it?
We need an all-female aviation podcast.
Okay, I'll get my coat. Fair enough.
I think Gemma will be no good at this particular role because she can barely drive a car over 30 miles an hour.
Behave, you, just because she's not here. And to be fair, she probably knows more about aviation than I do, so that's not hard.
Oh, I don't know about that, Matt. So that's where we bring the military news segment to a close this week. But we have got a very special little video clip up next. So, Nev, what's this all about?
Yes, we remember last week in the Christmas competition, we drew out the winners, and the winner of the top prize was Jenny Parkinson. Of course, where we can, we try and present our listeners with their gifts directly. It just so happened that she wasn't in Rome and she was in London. In fact, actually very near where I was born and where she lived for many years as well. So we're both quite familiar with the area, which is around the west part of London. So I went down there for lunch today, and this is what happened. Well, here we are on the Italian table, I'm pleased to say, in a West London restaurant. And we have Jenny and her husband Fabio and her daughter Laura next door to us. We just had a very nice bit of food. Thank you very much, Jenny, for buying it all for us as well. Oh, it was Fabio's credit card, was it? Okay, fair enough. And so what have you got there, Jenny?
Jenny, congratulations on winning the prize.
What could it be, I wonder?
I'm very, very pleased, very pleased with this.
Aha!
Bolts from the boat.
There we are, signed by the man himself.
I'm really looking forward to reading this.
Yeah, it's a great book actually. Really, really good. So congratulations to Jenny for.
There's something else in here.
There is, yes. There's something else too. Oh, I wonder what that is.
I won it. There was a very difficult competition with lots of things to play. So congratulations for winning. Oh wow, very nice. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, and many congratulations.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
And hello to everybody.
Oh, thanks, Nev. Thanks for delivering that in person. That's really the way forward.
Pleasure. Yeah, it was good, wasn't it? And it was a very nice meal as well, actually. I really enjoyed that. So that was wonderful. And thank you to Fabio for trying out his Italian Visa card.
Oh, very good. Well, I'm delighted it worked. Otherwise, it could have been a very expensive afternoon for you. Otherwise, Nev, I suspect.
Yeah, all the washing up. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
So great to see Jenny again as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well done, Jenny. Well done. And well done to everyone who entered the Christmas competition and won a prize. So yeah, it was a good competition and incredibly hard. As Jenny said, the questions were hard this year.
Yeah, indeed.
But they were meant to be hard.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
No,
We've had a few comments in the chat room during the show about the picture behind you, Matt.
Oh, okay, right. Yes, and you. There's
a
one
few,
behind you as well.
A few comments on that the C-17 was creeping up behind you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Someone else suggested that you should wear a green beanie hat or a woolly hat.
I don't have a green t-shirt actually. Otherwise, we could have a lot of fun with that, I suppose, couldn't we? Yeah. Never mind. So
as we've said in the last few episodes, we are having our yearly get together,
absolutely.
sort of conference chat next weekend,
Indeed.
where we're going to be discussing what we're going to do this year with the show in regards to air shows and all the bits and pieces that we're going to be attending in 2019. So keep your eyes and ears open on social media and the show as well for where we're going to be in 2019, because we're hoping to do quite a few different air shows this year. Fingers crossed. What I would like perhaps to say also is myself and Nev are actually going to be in London. Well, Nev lives there, doesn't he? But spends most of his time there, and that's on the Thursday. We said, wasn't it, in the end? So it's the 20. Was it the 28th?
Yes, 28th of February. Matt and I will be at Excel at the Broadcast Video Expo show. And so if anyone is around and wants to just pop in and say hello, it's free entry into the show, so we can always get you in somehow, I'm sure. But we'll be down there, so if anyone fancies a coffee or a chat,
absolutely, or even afterwards, because I think, as you say, it finishes quite early. It finishes about 4, doesn't it? So if anybody is up for a bit of a meet-up in London, it doesn't necessarily have to be at the XL. If we can find a location that's all there, then obviously get in touch to the show. It is podcast at planetalkinguk.com. It is podcast at planetalkinguk.com, or go straight to our website. We've just got a temporary page up at the moment, but the contact form is on the front page, so it's still easy to get in touch with the show. Fill in that form, it'll send us an email. Myself, Carlos and Nev will see it. And so if you are in London or going to come down to London, then by all means on the 28th of February on the Thursday, we'd be delighted to see you. If you follow us on social media, it is facebook.com/PlaneTalkingUK. Our Twitter handle is at PlaneTalkingUK, and the website www.planetalkinguk.com.
And don't panic, Jonathan Warner and Tony S. We do have plans, hopefully this year, to join you at Fairford. So that
is the plan.
Yeah, that is the plan this year.
We sort of, in our last meeting, we sort of decided that we would sort of alternate, wouldn't we? So it would be when Farnborough isn't running, then we'll do Riyadh and vice versa.
Because Riyadh is about 460 billion miles away from where me and Matt live here in beautiful.
Although that shouldn't be the reason why we don't go, to be fair. But
no, to be fair, we're both insured on the TriStar van, Matt. So,
we are, yes.
So we're
absolutely, yes.
So that is
you're really missing out, Nev.
No.
Well, no, don't worry, because obviously you guys are coming over to me next week.
I know.
Woohoo! Yeah, so hope you've got your passports, because you don't normally come this far.
No, we don't. No, absolutely. I'm slightly scared. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, absolutely. Is it really high up? I get nosebleeds if it's really high
up. Yes, because you're used to very flat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We don't do hills or anything like that. Yeah, absolutely. Very much.
But what we might do actually, because obviously we'll be in the studio here talking about it too. So we might do a bit of video perhaps for.
Will we now?
Oh, sorry, I should have mentioned that before.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay, good.
And on that,
can we go home now?
Yeah. So we are going to wrap up then episode number 251 of the show. Big thanks to everyone who's joined us in the YouTube chat room this evening. All the big family members there enjoying themselves this evening. The conversation's been pretty exciting in the chat room this evening. So well done to everyone who's joined us. And also a big thanks as well, not forgetting everyone who downloads the show via the audio podcast streaming services such as iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify.
Spotify's on. Yeah, we're on Spotify.
Yeah.
Or if you've got an Alexa, you can actually say to Alexa, you can literally ask Alexa to play the Plane Talking UK podcast.
I know, and she does it. She's very good.
She does. She's very good.
Very good.
Yes,
very good.
We are working, because at the moment, if you ask for the Plane Safety podcast, it tells you to go away at the moment. But we are helping Pip resolve that slight technical issue.
Oh, poor Pip. Poor Pip. But yes, thanks to everyone who does download. And remember, if you do download the show via iTunes, we would love it if you could give us a little rating and review on iTunes, because that does help to move things along on the iTunes site.
See, I get a bit nervous when we ask for feedback these days now after what happened before, but anyway.
Yeah, but we don't talk about food anymore.
No, okay. No. Yes, okay.
So thanks, Nev, again, as always, for joining us tonight. Fantastic.
Great pleasure.
Been to see
I can't wait to see what he's going to pull out of the bag in readiness for next week. Now that Sir Richard John's interviews are finished. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Matt. If we pull up at Nev's next week and we see a a kind of a limo or a blacked out
Right, okay.
Mercedes Benz.
Yeah.
You know, it's
What, do you reckon he could get one of the Spice Girls to come and join us for our meeting again, like he did last
Yes,
Christmas?
of course. Well, there's you never know, do you? You never know what's going to
Oh,
happen.
I can't wait now.
I'll have a word with my agents.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I mean, I'll settle for Alan Dedicoat. It's fine. I'm not fussy.
really Carol Vorderman for me. I mean, Carol Vorderman.
Oh, come on. Look, the legend that is the voice of the Balls. Come on, he's a legend.
So I'm just being biased with Carol Vorderman.
I know.
You know. Anyway, thanks everyone. That's it. Have a great weekend, whatever you're doing across the globe. Enjoy yourselves. Have a safe weekend, and we'll be back again next Friday, guys.
Well, yes, it'll have to be because we're down there unless we're going to do the show from Nev's. But
We'll be
we're
back
going
next-
we're going out for dinner Saturday.
Yeah, we'll be back next Friday evening again with the show. So thanks again, everyone. Have a great weekend. Take care. And from me, Carlos, here in the PTUK studios, it's good night.
So everybody say goodbye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.